I love the Washington Post. It's my hometown paper. It is
Yes.
painful to see what is happening to it. Also, I have to say, I'm fine with newspapers not endorsing candidates, but it's the timing of this one. And Jeff Bezos addressed that directly.
Yes, and he acknowledges this was probably poor timing on his part. He's taking ownership of this decision for the first time tonight after 3 days of craziness inside the Post. I mean, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of subscriber cancellations. I've never seen anything like it. Bezos has a business problem, which is the subscriber exodus, and he has a personnel problem because many people inside the Post don't trust him. They're worried that he's currying favor with Donald Trump, rolling over, trying to protect himself and his money at the expense of the Post. Bezos is saying that's not true. He's taking a principled stand. He's trying to restore trust in institutions. But I want to recognize that for all the flaws of the mainstream media, and we have a lot of them, it's not just the media's fault that trust has been declining for decades. It's also decades of attacks by politicians.
That is the main issue, is that, like, I mean, yeah, it could be that the Washington Post is endorsing candidates, or it could be that there are millions of voters who believe lying politicians who tell them lies, knowing that they are. I mean, that could be the problem too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really agree with Jeff Bezos on a lot of things, but I do think that, like, a newspaper endorsement doesn't move a voter. Right. Because most likely if you're reading the Washington Post, you're already voting and you already have a tilt. The timing is everything. And I do raise questions about, and I'm not even saying that he did it because he wants Donald Trump to win or Kamala Harris to win, but I do think as we look at the direction our country is going, and whether people believe that Donald Trump is a fascist or not, or whether people believe Donald Trump is trying to become to a more authoritarian state, we do see trend lines that what happens in dictatorial states, what happens in countries that are authoritarian, is that media tends to start to filter the way that they move in the world. And doing something like this, I would argue, actually, for people who still had faith in media, perhaps have less faith in the Washington Post.
Everybody who's left.
You're saying MAGA supporters have already lost trust.
Yes,
but for the independents
but your
and
reader,
the Democrats and the moderates.
They might say now this is now a tilted. And so did you really reach your ultimate goal?
No surprise. I'll take a little bit of different.
Really? No.
Just a little bit. Like, I think Bezos is actually correct here. And I think it's important for the media, not all media, of course, but even journalists as well. There is a massive hit to credibility. It's not just politicians attacking. It's clear bias in many, many ways. And I think the media could use a little bit of a humble pill, quite frankly. Look, I've been in 11 elections, so I've sat in editorial board meetings numerous times. And I know the people in the editorial board, and I know what they write, and I know when I'm sitting there doing a meeting for an endorsement, which doesn't happen in a presidential election, obviously, but congressional, Senate.
Well, actually, it does.
Does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not
Candidates do often meet with editorial boards.
Yeah, I think more often down ballot it matters.
Down ballot, it matters more. And I know when I'm sitting with them that they don't agree with any of my policies, literally none of my policies, because I see what they write. And I know that they're on the other side. And my point is, I don't think that a small group, not all of them, but many of them, are self-important, and they think that they're going to be able to write some prose, use a publication's distribution to politically attack someone who they don't agree with, which of course in this case is Donald Trump. And I think they have a credibility problem in the media for sure. Yes.
Do you think this is why? I mean, of all the things going on in the world,
they show clear bias many times. I think that's very obvious. And so, and it can be on both sides. I'm not saying.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask
I'm not saying it's only one side. It's on both sides. So. I think the media, I think Bezos is onto something here, and I would love to have trust in media, of course, 100%. I want them to be as objective as possible. And what's so bad about not endorsing a candidate and writing good stories that are objective?
Hey, look, as I said at the top, candidate endorsements, not my jam. I don't necessarily think papers should be doing it top to bottom on the ballot. But the other part of this is about the kind of billionaire owner, right? Which is not a new thing at all in media. The LA Times didn't endorse, but for a different reason, according to the daughter of the paper's owner, who says it was about Gaza. So we're suddenly starting to see these newspaper owners who kind of maybe wanted to be seen as these benevolent forces. They're putting their hands in there now.
USA Today didn't do it either. Why didn't they do it? I don't know.
They didn't really
in that
say.
case, that might be the exception to the rule because they normally didn't, but in 2020 they did.
Yeah.
But this is the thing with all of these papers. In the case of LA Times, the father disagrees with the son, with the daughter. Apparently, there's a little bit of a dispute. But the broader point is that many scholars have said for years that when a country is eroding its democratic norms and sliding into an authoritarian environment.
Well, let me say something.
That this is what happens, that media leaders capitulate.
I think
the
this
big
is
tech owners give in. Remember a couple months ago, Donald Trump said that he would arrest and imprison Mark Zuckerberg if Zuckerberg misbehaved again. The implication being Zuckerberg committed crimes.
He said he would put him in prison
That
for
is
life.
a different
That's what he
thing.
said.
Can I touch on two things
Yeah,
here?
real
One
quick.
Zuckerberg in a second, some of the same people who are out there very upset today that they can't endorse a candidate were some of the same people who loudly stood silent when people were censored. Journalists, media was censored, and political opponents were censored as well. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for some of these self-important folks that should have stood up for censorship on either side, which goes back to what you said. If things are spiraling, no matter if it's the left or the right, that's reducing journalism and the free press, you should stand up no matter, even if it's against the person that you don't like. Zuckerberg's a different story. Zuckerberg routed hundreds of millions of dollars through nonprofits that went specifically to election operations, mostly 90-some% in Democrat precincts. There's something wrong
But
there.
no evidence of
hold on.
illegality.
No.
I think he used a loophole. Are you okay with that loophole? Are you okay with Musk doing that right now? Probably not.
Well, no. I mean, I don't think anybody has said Elon Musk doesn't have a right to involve himself in the election. I think
we're
they're just
speaking
pointing
specifically
out that that's what's
about hundreds of millions of dollars routed to get out the vote operations.
Okay.
90% in Democrat precincts. That's a big problem.
Elon
man.
Musk is
Might
literally
have been legal.
Elon Musk is literally running virtually the entire Trump get out the vote
Which is why it's
operation.
I
which
just
is
don't
why
I
understand.
think we might agree on something. I think
it's wrong
I agree.
everywhere, right?
I think that that's why dark money should come out of politics,
Okay.
right? And why Citizens United should be.
They should not be able to do that.
go.
Oh, I like this. There's agreement,
There's some
Abby. Look,
bipartisan agreement.
this is working.